In today's show, the Giannis trade winds are swirling yet again. Let's talk about why any Bucks trade sending out Giannis is likely to include the Portland Trail Blazers. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. In today's show, we're talking all things Giannis Antetokounmpo. The trade market for him is heating up, or it's being reopened or rekindled, and it feels like we might finally get a resolution sometime over the next 6 weeks. The long-awaited saga is finally over, and the resolution of that saga, it's not finally over, but we're reaching a conclusion, and the resolution of that saga is almost certainly going to include the Trailblazers. Certainly it would have an impact on them regardless, but from whether the Blazers are involved in the ultimate Giannis trade in terms of acquiring the Bucks superstar or just facilitating a trade, any deal that the Bucks make is almost certain to include the Trailblazers, because Portland has all this future draft capital from the Bucks that would at least give them some control over their future should it be returned in any deal. We're going to get into all of that. Plus, the impact of the lottery reform, the changing lottery rules that haven't gone into effect, haven't been made official yet, but they will be at the end of this month, almost certainly. And we'll talk about the impact of those changing rules and what they might mean for the Blazers picks that they do control from the Milwaukee Bucks, both in terms of whether the value has gotten greater or lesser by the virtue of the changing lottery odds. Let's get into all of the angles of this Giannis trade. Let's start with the nuts and bolts that you need to know. How did we get here? Well, last week on May 5th, Jimmy Haslam, one of the owners of the Bucks, they have a weird ownership group where it's like a three-headed monster, and some of them take control at certain times based on the lunar calendar or something. But Jimmy Haslam, who's the current owner of the Bucks, said that the team wants to make a decision before the NBA draft. The NBA draft is June 23rd and 24th, first round 23rd, second round 24th. So the Bucks would like a resolution one way or another prior to that draft. Or, maybe on draft day, but like before the conclusion of the draft, they want to have that settled. Most likely the first day window is much more likely to be the place where bigger deals get done as opposed to in the second round, but obviously it could happen either way. This is notable in that basically the Bucks and Giannis have been doing this, like, are they going to get divorced finally toxic dance since, a year ago, a full calendar year last May. It was there last May. It was there in the summertime. It was there in December. It showed back up heavily at the trade deadline where the Bucks kind of explored trading Giannis, but according to a bunch of reporting, maybe never got particularly serious about like actually getting it done. And while a bunch of teams maybe tested the waters, including your Portland Trailblazers, it never got for real. But that the first bit of reporting from several sources, including Jake Fisher of the Stein line, was that Haslam says the Bucks ownership says like we want a resolution one way or another by June 23rd by draft night. That's notable because Giannis is extension eligible, but he's not extension eligible until October. So there was some consideration, or for my money, some worry that this would drag on into October because the Bucks would do this dance and say like, well, wait, maybe we'll extend him. Maybe you never know. Maybe we'll give it, and they were gonna continue to do the dance. But I think, it seems like the Bucks have finally moved in this direction. On Monday, May 11th, Shams Charania of ESPN reported, putting both a finer and more vague stamp on it in the way that only Shams can really do. Quote, the Milwaukee Bucks are open for business on trade calls and offers for two-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo entering the NBA draft combine, and over 6 weeks away from the draft, league and team sources told ESPN. What notably Shams says in that word salad of a story he posted on ESPN on May 11th is basically that like the Bucks are for real actively in the trade market. That mirrors what everyone else has reported, both Sam Amick and Eric Nehm at The Athletic, what has been reported by Mark Stein and Jake Fisher at the Stein line, what has been reported by Brian Windhorst at ESPN. Yeah, is that the Bucks? They're going to explore real trade opportunities. Shams goes on in that story to say the Bucks are keeping their options open for landing their own star with the 3 draft picks they have to trade and Kyle Kuzma and Bobby Portis's money. It's oh my goodness. Just report straightforward what's happening. Stop carrying so much water like it's that one scene from Fantasia. It's the real truth is the writing is on the wall that Giannis is going to get dealt. I would say I don't usually unpack it this cleanly, but I will because Shams is a very frustrating reporter. This is clearly the angle from the sort of Bucks team side with a little bit of peppered in information from Giannis's representation as well. I think importantly from at least sort of the angle, the way that this is, I'm guessing there, he says team and league sources, right? But I'm just kind of unpacking the reporting here. I think notably who Shams is offering information on behalf of. But I think notably that Shams says it's the fates of some playoff teams, the Timberwolves, the Cavs, the Celtics now out of the playoffs, the Knicks still alive, the Lakers. I'm by the time you listen to this, probably out of the playoffs, but I'm recording this before Lakers and Thunder tips off on Monday nights. But those teams could, those teams could to varying degrees be involved in future trades. And I'm not 100% sure how the Lakers are going to get involved, but I think those other teams all could reasonably put together packages that could end up with them acquiring Giannis one way or another. I think the Hawks are probably involved to some extent. The Magic probably should be mentioned as well as teams, and your Portland Trailblazers. And this is where I want to land here, because we're going to talk about the Blazers' involvement in here a bunch, but I just kind of wanted to set the scene. The Bucks ownership has said that they want to make a trade. The Bucks, Giannis's representation and Bucks ownership is now laundering, open for business. There's a bunch of suitors getting involved, and they're going to be aggressive in their pursuits. But importantly, and according to reporting from Jake Fisher of the Stein line, is that other teams, not the Bucks themselves, but other teams who are kind of figuring out what and trying to gauge the waters for what the Bucks might want to do with Giannis, think that retaining control of their draft capital, that is getting back the picks that they've traded out in previous deals for acquiring Drew Holiday from New Orleans and then acquiring Damian Lillard from the Portland Trailblazers, could will, quote, likely play a role in any Antetokounmpo trade that does eventually come to fruition, meaning that the Bucks are likely going to want to prioritize getting their picks back. And that's where the Trailblazers come in. The Trailblazers control Milwaukee's picks from 28 to 30. They have swaps with the Bucks in 28 and 30. Those are not outright owed picks. That is a right to swap picks in the draft, and they do outright have the Bucks pick in 2029, albeit involved in protections from the Deni Avdija trade with the Wizards, but that's a story for another day. Importantly, the Bucks don't have control of that pick. But Giannis has some leverage in this situation. He has a player option for the 27-28 season, which means that this upcoming year he's effectively on a one-year deal because he can just opt out and leave. Now, it would take a great deal of maneuvering for teams to clear enough cap space to outright sign Giannis Antetokounmpo to a max deal next summer. So most likely what happens is he says, his agent finds teams that are willing to offer him an extension. On October 1st, he becomes extension eligible. It's a 4-year, $275 million deal. He says, find me teams that are willing to give me that extension. And he, creates a short list, and the Bucks create a package that sends Giannis where he wants to go and probably loops in your Portland Trailblazers with their draft picks, and the Bucks' future draft picks to be a facilitator in the trade, and the Blazers get some sort of benefit on the back end from it. But Mike, couldn't the Blazers just trade for Giannis? Hasn't there been a fair amount of reporting that the Blazers, in and of them, as a single entity, would like to just be the team that acquires Giannis Antetokounmpo? Absolutely, but that reporting has always, when it came from Bill Orm of the Oregonian and later from Jake Fisher of the Stein line, without citing Bill's work or citing Bill's reporting, that. One of the limiting factors would be Giannis's willingness to sign a contract extension. Now, the Blazers, of course, could take the Kawhi Leonard-esque risk of saying, yeah, let's get him on a 1-year deal and see how good we can be in 1 year, and maybe we can convince him to stay. And if not, we'll try to be the best, absolutely best team we could be. Certainly they could do that. I think on the front end, you wouldn't pay as much with that level of risk, and maybe the Blazers' sort of appetite for that level of risk, knowing that Giannis could be that they're probably not championship level good, even with Giannis, just assuming the exact roster stays the same. That it would be riskier than what the Raptors did in 2019 in trading for Kawhi, because the Raptors were just straight up better, and then even then they had to go out and trade for Marc Gasol at the deadline. You got to be really good to win a championship. But there's been some reporting specifically from Sam Amick and Eric Nehm. Nehm is a beat reporter for the Athletic, based in Milwaukee. He's covered Giannis very, very well over the years, and Sam Amick, a veteran reporter at the Athletic, and they had a dual headline article that published May 9th, which said that there is significant skepticism, quote, from rival executives that Giannis would welcome a trade to the Trailblazers because he wants to join a team that's has a little bit closer proximity to a championship. So that probably is Minnesota. That probably is Boston. That probably is New York, right? Those teams do have more proximity to a championship than the Blazers. And the Trailblazers, they basically the speculation is that Giannis would probably want to join a team that's further along than Portland is, and that there is some belief, according to Amick and Nehm, that Giannis would also want to stay in the Eastern Conference. He doesn't want to head west. So New York, Boston, Cleveland are perhaps Miami, probably further along in the running just based on geographical preferences, right? But that doesn't mean the Blazers can't benefit from a Giannis trade. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the future picks and how they've been impacted by a change in the lottery. We'll do that in the second segment. Join me there, won't ya? First, though, I want to tell you that today's program has been brought to you by KALSHI. The playoffs are here. The NBA playoffs, the most electric time in basketball. The spring hoops. I love the second round. I'm excited for the conference finals. It's going to be great. And on KALSHI, you can trade every single play from the opening series through the conference finals and into the NBA finals. How it works on KALSHI is that you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the KALSHI app and use the code LOCKEDON to get $10 off when you trade. That's KALSHI, KALSHI, trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Today's program is also brought to you by Rocket Money. Have you ever looked at your bank account and thought, where did all my money go? Well, you're not alone. Keeping track of subscriptions, spending, and bills can get overwhelming fast. That's where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. Tracks your subscriptions in one spot. You can cancel them with one click. You can say, I don't want to pay for that anymore. Click the button, and Rocket Money will take care of the rest. It automatically categorizes your spending so you can see where your money's actually going, and you can set budgets, get alerts, stay on top of upcoming bills. It makes everything feel more organized and gives you a clearer picture of your finances day to day. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitor spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right. Thanks for making this show your first listen. If you're living the everyday lifestyle, listen to the show every day, make it official. Join the Locked On Everydayer Club. For just $5 a month or $50 a year, you get access to the members-only Discord where you can chop it up with me and your fellow Blazers fans. I'm in there basically every day chatting with Blazer fans. It's a great place to connect with me. Plus, you get an ad-free version of this podcast in your audio feed. That's Locked On Blazers without the interruptions. LockedOnBlazers.supercast.com. There's more at the link in the show notes. The Trailblazers are likely to be involved in a Bucks trade for when Giannis leaves town. And I do believe we finally reached the point where he is going to be traded here right around the NBA draft. I just think that it's like, it was going to take the the Bucks as an organization being ready for the breakup, because Giannis has been kind of angling this way. He was doing it all last summer, and he's doing it now. He's doing it at the trade deadline, and it's clear he's still there now. And just like they kind of reached a point where it's time. It stinks. Like, as you know, I covered the Dame saga here, and like as a fan of a team, and particularly a team that's like not a glamour market, watching a guy who's been loyal to your franchise and been very successful, Giannis obviously like a champion and a multi-time MVP, like kind of get, run out of town and also have to deal with like the never-ending content slot machine telling you to trade your favorite franchise player. That stinks, right? But that is what we're doing here on Locked On Blazers. So I apologized. I guess I don't even apologize. I know how obnoxious that sort of cycle is, but if you chose to tune into this program and you made it to the 15-minute mark of this program, you knew what you signed up for, and I appreciate you signing up for it. The Blazers, well, they might not be suitors, right? Because it does seem, at the trade deadline, it was kind of rumored, like, hey, the Blazers sort of made a play for, this was in February, made a play for Giannis. And then like within 24 hours, it was like, that doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Like, it's like Giannis says, league sources say that is an unlikely scenario. The Blazers' overtures for Giannis have been shut down. And then like the initial reporting back in April from Bill Oram of the Oregonian was like the Blazers would pursue Giannis contingent on signing a contract extension, which like reads to me as like, in some ways, it was citing an anonymous source, but it reads to me in some ways like, saving face. Hey, we'd be willing to do this, but it takes two to tango from the Blazers' perspective. But like, if the Bucks make this trade, the Blazers have this draft capital that could be valuable to them. My question is, as the lottery odds shift, how freaking valuable is it? Has the value of the picks changed? Maybe. I don't think. Well, let me just spoil a take for later in the show. I don't actually think the value itself has inherently changed, but the possibilities, the variance, the wideness of the possibilities has expanded enough. That like how they are perceived may be changed. So the lottery has not been officially reformed. There's going to be a Board of Governors meeting on May 28th to approve the changes to the new lottery system that will go into effect next year. So what is the lottery system? It's what the league is calling the 3-2-1 system. 16 teams will participate in the lottery, and they will either get 3 balls, 2 balls, or 1 ball. Okay, that's pretty simple. That's the 3-2-1 system. Allow me to expand on that. The bottom 3 teams in the standings, that is the teams with the 3 worst records in the league, get 2 balls. 2. The other teams that don't make the play-in, so that is the non-postseason participants, or as you know them, 4 through 10. Excuse me, that's the 4th worst record through the 10th worst record, not 4 through 10, but the 4th worst record through the 10th record. Those teams will get 3 balls. And then the 4 teams in the play-in rounds will get 2, and the losers of the 7-8 game, in the 9-10 play-in round will get 2 balls, and the losers of the 7-8 game will get 1 ball. So, all 16 lottery spots will be chosen randomly in the drawing, so not just the top 4. There is a great deal of variance. The bottom 3 teams who do have reduced odds, worse than finishing 4th, they can't fall any lower than 12th, but they still do end up there. And teams cannot pick number 1 in consecutive years, and teams cannot have top 5 picks for 3 straight years. So there's a lot to sort of take in here. I'm going to pull up a little bit of a graphic. I think like most notably, what changes is the race for the bottom has been reduced. So if you have the worst record, the 2nd worst record, or the 3rd worst record, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can pull up this graphic. This is courtesy of Lev Akabas from Sportico. A nice little infographic. You'll see is the current odds and what will be the new odds coming into next season. So the current odds, as we just had settled on Sunday, the final year of this current lottery that was put into place in 2019. I think tanking got bad enough this season that a change was necessary, but I'm not sure I love this one, and I'll go into that more in a second here. So if you have the worst record, 2nd worst record, or 3rd worst record, you only have a 5.4% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick. The 4th to 10th worst record, you still have that 8.1% chance. There's a kind of a big range of not quite in the postseason, but rewarded for being more competitive than the 3 worst teams. Then there's the line for the teams that make the play-in. The 10th seed on both sides gets, that's East and West, gets 5.4%. The 9th seed on both sides gets 5.4% at the number 1 odds, at the number 1 pick. And then if you lose the 7-8 game and you get bounced, so you still could have a chance to make the playoffs, but you do lose, you would get a 2.7% chance. That means if you win, if you're in the 7-8 game and you win and make the playoffs, you do not get any lottery odds, but if you lose that game and then win the next game, you can make the playoffs and still get in the lottery. Also, this seems to reward teams that finish 9th as opposed to 7th. That seems like a little bit backwards in my personal opinion. It does, in a lot of ways, not kind of forget the point of of the draft. Like, it's supposed to protect teams at the bottom. It doesn't seem to do that. But it will be better TV, and it will change a little bit of the variance in picks. And I think that's what I want to talk about with the Trailblazers and the Bucks and Giannis. And we will do that in the 3rd segment. Join me there, won't ya? First, though, let's talk 5-hour energy. If you got a sweet tooth, you know how tough it is to find that perfect treat without all the sugar. That's why the Fruity Rainbow 5-Hour Energy Shot brings the nostalgic flavor back in a whole new way. It's a zero sugar treat that's sweet tooth approved. The Fruity Rainbow 5-Hour Energy Shots treat your taste buds to an explosive fruity flavor with a tasty caffeine kick. That's tasty caffeine TM. It's a quick, easy way to satisfy that sweet craving while keeping things simple and on the go. 5-Hour Energy is convenient. It fits in your purse. It fits in your pocket, depending how big your pockets are. It's small and portable. It's a shot you can grab whenever you need for a little bit of a pick-me-up. Plus, now it's got a sweet, nostalgic taste. So you're going to get a bunch of caffeine. You're going to get your B12. You're going to get that little boost to pick you up in the afternoon when your blood sugar is low and you're feeling like you're dragging a little bit. It can be your go-to when you want something sweet without going overboard. And you can get that candy-flavored chaos with Fruity Rainbow 5-Hour Energy Shots that are available at 5hourenergy.com as well as on Amazon. Today's program is also brought to you by Wayfair. It's that time of year when you want to go outdoors, and Wayfair wants you to know that your outdoor space should feel like you. It's one of the spots that you keep meaning to fix up, but you might never get around to it. So now's the time to get around to it. Wayfair makes it easy to find pieces that match the vibe you want. So if you were trying to fix up your small patio, your apartment porch, or a whole huge backyard, you are going to find things that fit your style, that fit your budget, and also fit your space, because your space might be very specific and everything is one place. And everything that you'll find seating, you'll find decor, you'll find lighting, outdoor rugs. It's all going to be there on Wayfair. And with thousands of verified reviews, you can feel confident in what you're getting. So now the space you're putting together in your outdoor areas is going to feel like you. Somewhere to sit, somewhere to relax, somewhere to spend time. Get prepped for patio season. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR, Wayfair, every style, every home. All right, still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. Still listen to Locked On Blazers. I think the new lottery odds in general, I don't love them, but I do think they needed to change because there was just too much incentive to lose. And we just had too many teams this year actively just horrendous. And it started earlier than it had in the past. Teams were like, shenanigans were happening in February. You're missing almost 10 weeks of competitive basketball, and you're playing all these bottom feeder teams that actively want to lose. And it's not a problem with fans. Fans get it, and they're like rooting for their team to lose. And I don't blame franchises for doing shenanigans to like, the system is the system. The same way I kind of was like annoyed with the Blazers when they were doing their ultimate tanking shenanigans for a couple seasons. I don't hate the player. I hate the game. But the new lottery odds they don't get it perfectly right for me, but I do think they will be a general improvement because there is incentive to be a little bit better. There is really a weird line with play-in teams. The weird line with play-in teams where it's just better to finish 9th than 7th seems bad. You're not gunning for 7th, which would give you much better chance to make the playoffs. Like, if you feel like you're right on the cusp, 9th is better. Like, if you feel like you might lose, straight up 9th is better. Or at least, like, you have a puncher's, you could maybe have your cake and eat it too if you feel like you can win a road game. Like that part is a little bit weird to me. And I also think like some teams are just naturally bad on accident, and punishing teams that are just like unlucky and have injuries are just bad by it doesn't give them a ladder up. But what it does allow for is a little bit of TV. Sounds like, according to Jake Fisher of the Steinline, that this might be on TV, because instead of right now they do it in a closed room. On Sunday they did it in a closed room. It's 14 ping pong balls, and they're 14 numbers. They amount to 1,001 combinations. And if your combination comes up in the drawing, then you win. The Wizards win. Michael Winger, who was apparently very stoic at the time when the Wizards won the lottery. And when the Pacers lose out in the lottery, upset in the back room. And then it goes out and it gets revealed separately in like a sort of separate reveal. Now, instead, it would just be 37 total ping pong balls for the 16 teams. And you would be drawing not just for the top 4 spots, but every spot within the lottery. And it would just be, you would just have either three ping pong balls, 2 ping pong balls, or 1 ping pong ball, depending on where you finish. And it would just have your team logo on it. So like, it would be good TV. It would pop up and be like, hey, that's the pinwheel. Oh, dang it. Or like, hey, that's the hawk. But I guess you don't want to see your logo early in the lottery show. You want to see it at the very end. Hey, that's still not our logo. Finally, that type of thing. So it could make for like a little bit more compelling television. I think that also all the weirdos who are like convinced that the lottery is rigged, despite it being $1 billion industry and like a lot of other things that I won't get into now. Like this would, I guess, quell that. Although I'm sure people could say that TV's all fake. There's all, conspiracy theorists really will go to any lengths to believe things. But let's get back to the actual matter at hand here. Is like, did the Blazers picks that they have from the Bucks, 28, 29, and 30, swaps in 28 and 30, outright pick in 29, are they more valuable? Maybe. I think what has really changed is the amount of variance in the picks. You just don't know. Before, it would be very straightforward. The Bucks could say, give us our picks back. We're going to be horrendous, and we're going to have a 14% chance at the number 1 pick in the draft. And if we can have the worst record in the league, we'll basically have, a coin flip of either having a top 4 pick or picking 5th, right? We'll guarantee ourselves a top 5 pick, and we will take our chances there. Now, with all 16 lottery spots being pulled for, and no guarantee that having a horrendous record gives you better odds. In fact, you kind of need to be somewhat competitive, but not super good. Like you need to be the Bulls and the Kings. Like if you can get there, then yeah, you do have greater odds. But because it's been flattened, and because you're pulling for all 16 spots, the number of outcomes has increased a great deal. So while I don't think you could say that the picks are more valuable, I think that the wider variance probably makes them, the Blazers may be a little wary of trading them to anyone if there's not a valuable trade, but also like there's a world in which these picks just aren't very good because you're 16-team lottery and flattened odds, right? But there's also a world in which the Bucks are relatively competitive, finish with the 10th worst record in the NBA, and still have the same chance as the team who's like the 4th worst team in the league, right? So I think the wider array of outcomes, what it would do if it were your own picks, would probably make you less likely to trade those picks. But I for the Bucks, it's just controlling your fate. It's just controlling your fate. So they're still much more incentivized to do that. Because while the Blazers, I don't know if they project as like a surefire playoff team, because I don't know what 2028 is going to hold. But I do think that they're much next season, when they don't control the Bucks pick, they seem like a team that absolutely could make the playoffs. Like, if nothing changes in the roster, that absolutely could be a playoff team, much less any moves they were to make this summer. So the swap in that regard, if you assume the Blazers will have like a flat to moderately positive trajectory over the next few seasons, they seem like they're headed in a better place than the Bucks. So you kind of do want that swap, right? And there would be value there. So I don't think these picks have greatly shifted in value. I think the variance shifts enough that it might change your willingness, again, to trade your own picks, but it doesn't trade. From the Bucks' perspective, getting control back of your picks is still super valuable. So if you're the Blazers, what you're hoping for is that the Bucks do find a trade, and they do find a suitor for someone who will give Giannis his contract extension, and where Giannis will accept it. Whether that is right here in Portland, and you end up with Giannis Antetokounmpo, and that would be the biggest trade in franchise history, albeit maybe not a super clean fit, but I think the talent level is such that you say, like, yeah, let's just figure it out from there. Or that he ends up with the Knicks or with the Timberwolves or with the Cavs, and that the Blazers can benefit on the back end, and they end up and they say, whatever the Bucks can negotiate to get young players, because the request, according to the reporting from Shams Charania, is that the Bucks maintain their asking price, which is like a surplus of draft picks and or a blue chip prospect. Best of luck. Best of luck acquiring that package. We'll see. I don't know what it will be, but I'm willing to wager that the most you don't quite get exactly what you're asking for, right? You don't get it every single thing. And Giannis having a little bit of leverage to choose his destination allows those teams that are trading for him a little bit of leverage to say, we're not giving you all that, right? Like, I think that it cuts both ways, and the Bucks need to find that sort of perfect sweet spot. But I do think over the next 6 weeks, this will probably get a resolution, and the Blazers will benefit in some way, whether they end up with a really interesting young player, I don't know, Evan Mobley or Paolo Banchero, should those trades happen, or whether they end up with Giannis Antetokounmpo, or whether they can maybe just keep kicking the can down the road. They trade those draft picks for someone else's unprotected draft picks, and instead of swaps, maybe they get multiple unprotecteds back, and they give the Milwaukee back their swaps, right? Like, control of your picks, okay, but we'll take someone else's. I think there's a lot of ways for the Blazers to benefit. It also gives the Blazers, that flexibility gives the Blazers a chance to be involved and maybe send out some money they don't want, or be involved in a multi-team trade to get back some other players. Maybe not the young blue chipper, maybe not Paolo Banchero, but like someone else along the way from Cleveland or from New York or from whoever it might be. I think Milwaukee making this move now is beneficial for the Blazers, but how beneficial I think will be, proof will be in the pudding. But I think it's happening. I think over the next 6 weeks happening. Certainly we'll follow along here. That's going to do it for today's show. Tomorrow we'll talk about, I don't know, maybe the Blazers' biggest trade chip of the summer, or at least someone likely to be involved in any major trade they make. That's Jeremy Grant. Continuing our player review series, we'll talk all about GAG, his performance, and his trade market and value. That's what we do 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I will talk to you soon.